Hey guys, it's me again, Orc What Ifs. Where we last left off, let's see, checking. So, where we last left off, Deku essentially got the crap beat out of him when it came to fighting off those, well, not even fighting off, but more or less taking a beat down from the Muscle Man, Fire Drake, and Eagle Eyes. Eagle Eyes more or less stood in the back and kept him down, and made sure he didn't try anything. Until he got close to his shield, then he broke off the arm of Muscle Man again, and pretty much burned some of Fire Drake's face off. And Stain stood there and watched, and kind of became somewhat disgusted, as you would say, with them. Stain is still at large, so you know that happened. Sorry. So I believe now they'll be doing the whole hero exam, and then after that, that's when they go to the whole Island event, if I remember correctly. So, with that, it's difficult for who they would put him up against, but I'll say Bakugo and Deku still have a very bad relationship. But Aizawa still sees that Deku doesn't rely on his quirk too much, that the AI still do a lot, as you would say. And essentially, if they went up against him, it would pretty much be a win for him automatically, since any form of quirk canceling would just knock Deku unconscious. Or the AI, I believe. Or just severely weaken them to where immovable. As then Aizawa and them get the whole, idea thing where they don't put him up against Aizawa, it's All Might. As it's Manette, I guess. Who would Carolina replace? Carolina doesn't force her to stay on her quirk, so it's difficult as to where to put her. So as a thing, they decide to make 2 groups of 3 instead of just instead of all the groups 2 a pair. So they're putting Carolina with Bakugo and Deku, and they're putting Sero with what's their name? Uraraka and Oyama. So they're fighting with the 13th. There we go. As Carolina and them start talking about how they should do things, Bakugo does the whole "I can win this with my own power," being jealous as he usually would of Deku. As when All Might comes swinging in, he threw up the shield around them as to save them from that little blast. As they just I'm okay. It isn't as bad as I thought it would be. As then All Might comes walking over, can we win against him? It's just I don't know, but we can try. As the 3 of them look at one another, it's alright. They get the brute shot and everything, and they're all at the ready. Then All Might appears right in front of. As the AI slowed things down, All Might was still moving pretty fast compared to a lot of things. So as it was doing how a church or Epsilon perceived time when they slowed it down, they slowed it down to pretty much that speed. Sorry. Sorry. As All Might's moving extremely fast, as then they immediately try to activate the speed quirk, but they're just barely able to put up the not put up the speed, but not the shield. But as they pulled the brute shot and pulled the trigger, as then they shot All Might's foot, as they got him stuck to the ground. As All Might went to run, as he sort of tripped in a little bit. As soon as his other foot got stuck, they just started blasting him with the rest of them, trying to get him to stop, as they put it on his joints and everything. As in, All Might was right there, just like as he's trying to move out of the stuff, but it's pretty much covering his entire body. As when they shot it, it just sort of enclosed around his entire elbow, fist, and everything. As in, they didn't like shoot over All Might's head. They just pretty much went over and handcuffed him. As it's like, looks like we underestimated them. As Nezu says, that really isn't a test for them, though, isn't it? It's like, it was. As before, even Bakugo and Caroline could even realize what happened, All Might was already stuck and Deku was walking over with the handcuffs. As it's like a split second that all that transpired, with All Might being like in that thing. And they're lucky that there's a rapid fire set. It's a rapid fire weapon instead of a you shoot then cock it back like a shotgun, thankfully. As they're like, oh. And All Might was like right in front of them, so thankfully it didn't have a travel far. Well, almost right in front of them. As then the entire magazine is emptied. And scratch what I said. As they're about to put on the handcuffs, I'll say All Might is able to get his foot loose, and then just sweeps Deku's leg as he's like, whoa! Falls on the back. As then All Might just starts sort of falling over, or like he's getting his foot and stomping it on the ground, trying to break it around their feet so that way he can move. But the stuff has hardened. There's a very specific chemical that will help them unfreeze him, as he doesn't have that on him. Because, well, they didn't really think about it. As when All Might's in the process of freeing himself, Carolina rushes over and straps the thing to his leg. As it's like, oh. As All Might's like, dang it. As, sorry that's so anticlimactic. You were probably expecting some big, awesome, epic battle. No, Delta was thinking about this way beforehand, and they slowed down time to think of like dozens of plans just to take on All Might, as it took them over an hour, well, yeah, over several hours in AI time, but in human time it was like only like a minute or so, I'd say. Like I said, several hours. As they weighed the possibilities over and over again, sort of simulating it in their head after they heard on who they would have. And that was probably the best way, as they studied All Might and knows what kind of person he is. He's kind of arrogant at times, kind of cocky. So, you know. As then, the whole Island event. Delta says there's no real point in going, but they'll go for whatever, for the heck of it. As they have the tickets, they're like, who to take? As they weigh among their friends, you could say, as they're thinking it through, so who do we take? Could take Bakugo, but again, maybe not. As they're running it through their head, who to take? So they take not Momo, but sorry, forgive me about this. They take Carolina. There we go. As they offer Carolina the extra ticket, she's like, sure, but why me? As Delta pretty much tells her that you are probably among one of our closest friends here, so I just decide to invite you. What about Caboose? I feel like I would have to watch Caboose constantly. No offense to him, but he's kind of childish, as you would know, and you'd probably wander off. She's like, no, you have a point. So as they go to Island, they don't meet All Might's like Melissa or anything. Even he invited Mirio last time, he invited Muriel and such to do come over there. As when they landed, they're like, alright. As everything started getting underway, they did the obstacle course where they blitzed it pretty well, like where they did a pretty decent score. They were actually the ones doing that, with Carolina and them comparing times. As Deku, Deku in this case, got the best score there next to Carolina's. Or Carolina's next to Deku's score. Then Todoroki just does his thing. So with that all underway, the FI were actually looking at suits and such to where to make themselves look presentable. Then everything happens as it does, and Muriel is even there with Melissa. As Delta actually did a lot of research on Island before going, as he figured out a lot of the subroutines and all that about security and such, and is pretty good when it comes to hacking, you could say. As he started hearing about the whole island being put on lockdown and such, they came up with the solution saying, As they started talking about Island only gets shut down if something is seriously wrong, as then they started explaining it to the rest of the crew, as then when Melissa heard what was going on, as it's like, who are you? We're from 1A, and this is, as they introduce themselves, as this is like, I'm Mirio Togata, I believe is the name. Togata or Togata, one of the two. And this is Malicious Shield. As then she's like, oh, I know you. You were from the sports festival. As is like, yes. As then Delta starts saying that how they've seen, as with several subroutines and such, and they're somewhat accessing right now through that thing over there, as they're looks like they're hacking into it, but Delta's pretty much doing everything. As they're showing, someone has taken over command through back doors in the security system. They need to get up there to fix it. As Melissa's like, sorry. As Melissa says, she can get them up there. So I was like, agreed. As they all start trying to get up there as fast as possible, they run into several problems like they do beforehand. Todoroki and Carolina decide to fight the other two guys as they would in the anime or the movie. As in there, then as the others are pretty much running up the stairs and such, completing the objectives as they would in the thing, with Deku, or well, Delta and them playing a more significant role as they bash through the robots much better, more easily, I guess, using speed and such. Clear out dozens of them. So they eventually make their way up top, and it's pretty much the same thing for Carolina, like doing the same things Bakugo did with fighting the, I forget, did he fight the guy with the blades or the guy with who was all hulked out? I forget which one. But she fights them, and even comes in saving her Araka, kicking the robot that was about to jump on her. As it's like, got you! She's like, I got you, Araka! As they begin to fight the robots. With Deku, or the Meta, whichever what you want to call him, Mirio and all of them are rushing up there. Well, actually, Mirio was helping Araka down below. With Deku and Melissa, Deku saying that he could, if she gives them a chance, he could easily disable all the security systems. She's like, I can do the same, so why don't you just leave it to me? Delta's like, very well, as they go back into the head. As then he pretty much picks up Melissa and then just uses the speed boost to blitz them past everything to get there. As she starts shutting down those systems, then eventually the whole, well, standoff happens. All that happening pretty similar as with the whole plot being revealed. None of the other team is there, so there isn't any. Actually, scratch that. You know who is there? There's Minigun, Frowny Face, and then there's Blondie. Or, yeah, Blondie, I believe is what I called her. I'm not entirely sure. As Frowny Face, I believe is the one I said there, is like, as she has the minigun at the ready whirling up. With Blondie's like, well, if it isn't the scary mute that we made. With the whole growling just starting to become more significant. As she's like, whoa, easy there. As the pistol, or as the minigun's aimed at Melissa. It's like, so, make your choice carefully. As then it's just put a shield around the entire group. As they're like, damn it, I almost forgot you could do that. As then the fat guy who was like there helping them puts a gun to Izuku's head as he's like, drop the shield now or I pull the trigger. As then it's just weighing the odds. As when he's about to drop it, getting down on his knees, he then grabs the guy's arm, picks him up, and smashes him into the ground. As Melissa saw this brutality. As they went over and saw the whole headset that would increase their quirks. As Omega's like, we should take it, incorporate into our own. Sigma says that would help them in increasing their ability to become heroes. As then Theta says, well, if they weren't allowed to use it, then why haven't they been using it beforehand? As they start weighing the odds, as Delta speaks to the man who created it, asking, could this be incorporated into a helmet? As Melissa's like, what are you saying? It would be a secret between me and him. No one else. As he's like, oh, well, as Delta's saying that it is illogical to state that any other would probably attempt to try to get their hands on the blueprints or this again. It'd be much safer to have with someone who could easily protect it at all times, or even destroy it when the time came. As Melissa's shield is like thinking it over in her head, as Delta says, it is a logical choice. To be truly ensured, it should have been destroyed a long time ago. But if he isn't willing to destroy it, he would be more willing to make use of it. And she's like, I could, like, if I knew what your armor was, as they pretty much explain their whole armor suit and what the helmet looks like. As he's like, I can do that. But first, as when the whole people are held prisoner, the guy gets back up and shoots him like right in the side, or like right over the heart, as it's like, oof. As when he got shot, it actually hurt the AI a bit, or the FI a bit, as they dropped the shield for a split second. But that was enough for the guy to he was keeping his quirk a secret, I'll say. Blondie jumped out through the portal hole and just began fighting Deku. As then, whoever his name is, I forget his name, I'll just call him Mr. Shield, was trying to grab a hold of it, as then the guy was able to sort of, using his Magneto quirk, do all that and then get Deku pinned. As Frowny Face was about to start shredding him, Melissa finally got the security things deactivated, as then it's like, Frowny Face, Blondie, it's time to go. As before he was able to shoot, Mr. Shield jumped on his arms like, stop it. He's like, as he says, I'll come willingly, just leave him alone. As it's like, fine. As then they just took him at gunpoint and shot the other dude. As then Omega used the strength to break him out. As then they eventually made it. As they started get there, Izuku, or the FI, started rushing after them, as Melissa's like, give me back my daddy, I believe is how she calls him. And he eventually starts lifting off in the air. As then they immediately grab all the strength they can, using the limiter, coming in and jumping on the helicopter, punching Frowny Face as they were trying to light up Deku, or the FI, jumping in there, grabbing David, and then immediately jumping out, using the shield to give them protection as they fell. As they fell down, they opened the bottom where they would be able to land as they smashed into the top of the building. As it's like, damn it. If only... Good thing we got the prototype still, as in it's like, beep, beep, beep. As it's like, what's that? As it was a grenade that Blondie had on her. She's like, oh shit. As they look at the back, the tail blade is still, as it's like, as when Magneto dude goes to grab the thing, or went to grab it, it was gone. As then the helicopter just goes blowing up in the air. As then something comes flying at him, as it's just a helmet with the whole, if you know Red vs. Blue, it has a frowny face, and then there's also a helmet that comes flying a little bit later, or a bit worse condition, with a little kiss mark on the helmet, or whatever it was. As Melissa's like, oh. As then David's like, oh. As then they grab the thing off their back, as it's like, as they pick up David, saying, oh up, pay up. All Might eventually coming to the roof. What is that? It's a quirk enhancing thing, as he's like, oh, well, it's best you get rid of it. As David's like, well, he says, sorry, All Might, I can't do that. As then All Might's like, why? And then he looks to Deku standing there, just like, Delta. As it's like, All Might, you know what that does, right? Yes. Increase his quirk ability. This is like, yes. So why would you want it? It would increase our quirk's ability. It would help us reach our goal of becoming the #1 hero and surpassing you tremendously. It's like, yeah, but at what cost? No cost. As it's like, it's a crutch. I thought you wanted to get there on your own power. As then Sigma starts thinking about this. As the AI starts thinking about this, Omega's the one to say, as Omega comes out right next to Delta, saying, you're only scared that we'll surpass you. That you won't be able to stop us if, in your mind, we go out of control. That is something you can't judge, All Might. As then, Melissa and David are confused as they see two little men. As Theta's like, come on guys, let's stop arguing. Then Sigma says, I disagree with All Might. As all the AI start talking at once, with Gamma just like in the background, looking at everything. Sigma and Omega's fighting with All Might, so is Delta. They're just trying to get everyone to like relax. And then Sigma, I said Omega and Delta are talking with All Might. Gamma's in the back. Theta's trying to get everything under control, and Sigma is right now talking with David Shield about incorporating it into their helmet's design. Now, could he have it that's only on their helmet, nothing else? As he's like, yes. As he's like, get working on it then. You'd like to have it before we leave. And she's like, alright. As he then after like a few hours of finding out what it's made out of and such, as a personal favor, they want to see if he could upgrade it, which he did. And then it was brought out to Deku, as All Might's like, David, I'm afraid that I can't let you give that to him. The council or whoever said it wouldn't be allowed, that it's illegal. It's not an illegal product, technically, considering it never existed in the first place. Nobody, as David said, nobody would have to know this even exists. It's just something I'm giving to him as a personal favor. Save my life and my daughter's. And even yours, All Might. That's something we can thank him for, at least. As then they see it in the suitcase. As then they put it on. And then they use the speed quirk. They're blindingly fast. Like almost at like 80. If you were to compare his quirk before then, it was like 40 to 50% of All Might's power, using the whole limit breaker thing. And now it's more or less along the lines of 80%, increasing it quite a lot. Or not All Might's, well, yeah, All Might's power at this point. Not Prime, but this point. As he's like, as he feels it, as he rushes around seeing how fast he is, as All Might's like, I could barely, as Melissa and them could barely keep up with them. As then they put it back into the thing, as the side effects aren't actually that bad. As they give a, as Delta says, we will begin calibrating, well, begin doing tests on their own on how to properly use it. With that finished and such, they're done and then they leave. Carolina talking with Deku about how all that went, and them explaining that it went pretty well, all things considering, so, you know. That being said, sorry. That being said and done, they return to school and everything, and they have the pool day. The only thing that changes about that is Deku again dominates. As with all that being said, when Aizawa didn't close off the thing, oh, I guess he did, as they all just fell into the water. As with the AI just like sort of flopping and then just sinking to the ground. As in, once they got out of Aizawa's sight, they like immediately came back up after he stopped. As it like, that was not logical, Aizawa. Well, they weren't breathing, but the body was, as Delta went up to Aizawa's face, and Omega kind of breached out for a second, appearing there to be too, as no one really noticed. I guess everyone noticed it as it went back in. As they're like, what the hell? As they try to make up an excuse that sometimes when he feels multiple things at once, two of them come out, sort of as like the multiple voices in your head sort of thing. As like, yeah, that's pretty good. As then they go on to him, and then, well, All Might couldn't let it rest, so Aizawa wanted to talk with Deku. As Deku and them came later, like in that day, when it was Kaminari and Cure. It was, instead of being Kaminari and Mineta, and it was pretty much Kaminari and Kirishima. Kaminari talking Kirishima that everyone would probably enjoy it, you know? Kirishima's like, yeah, that sounds like fun, I'll invite all the other guys. It's like, yeah. Kaminari is saying, yeah. Being how he typically would be in the anime. Conniving with Mineta. As with that being said and such, God. That being said and such, Aizawa was pulled Deku over to talk with him. Even actually, they brought him all the way to Nezu's office, having him explain, and that they try to get him to give it up, but he says that it's technically not illegal, because technically it doesn't even exist. Is what he says, as Nezu's trying to come up with it, as he's looking through everything. Quirk enhancement, use of quirk enhancing technology, as they're looking, like, searching through laws, as it's no. Because in the official books, nothing has ever existed like that. Because it would throw the world into a state of disarray. As if it was the same thing if the truth about All Might's quirk was revealed. As they're like, as Nezu's like, unfortunately we cannot make it public knowledge. As David Shield is not allowed to make any more of them. And that it's technically just a prototype. As Deku explains that it isn't a prototype, it was a finished product, that they were just not allowed to make any more besides this single one. And not even the people at Island know that he has attained this. And they couldn't make any moves against him even if they knew about it. They would have to try being sneaky about it. But as Delta explains that even if they did try it, Omega comes out, they would have to pry it off our cold dead hands. As Sigma says, what we are trying to say is that with this we can be more efficient and properly defensive about everything. We wouldn't just be so weak, and with this on, as they say, we believe we won't be completely useless if we're hit with a quirk suppressant. As they're like, Aizawa does the whole thing with the armor on, as they're pretty much just down to how they normally would be. As it's like, As Aizawa says, as long as you don't do anything too crazy, it doesn't matter to me. Because I can tell from knowing you that you wouldn't use it for anything absurd as probably sneaking around with your cloaking or anything. As he's like, thank you. Now if you don't mind. But this will, if that helmet gets damaged and your quirk boosting device is destroyed, you will not be getting another one. Do we make ourselves clear? As it's like, yes. Good. Now that is all. As then they go to the mall. As Delta said that we need several items on our bucket list for us to ensure the most optimal time at camp. As then they go, and then they get separated. As Delta and them actually just sat there waiting, thinking, like, Theta's like, so what do you guys will think will happen at the camp? Omega says, nothing unusual, I bet. It's just gonna probably be boring. As then, Shigaraki still has that whole question on what makes Stain different. As Stain is still plastered all over news, Stain's name is still attracting people to the League of Villains. As with all that underway, the Vanguard Action Squad will be a thing. It's just that the Mercs, as they are known as, or the Hell Troopers or whatever. I don't know. What would you call the special mercenaries, like Blondie and all of them? As they're ex-military, as is probably obvious, their quirks are very diverse and unique. What would you call them? You guys actually come up with a name, as it will be a separate thing from the Vanguard Action Squad. Tell me what you want. What you would like for the other team to be called. As he then gets the same explanation he does in the thing, as Delta explains that he believes that Stain has an actual purpose for the violence he inflicts. Just like heroes or villains, there's always those who would justify what pain they cause is for the good of the rest. As Omega comes out looking him dead in the eyes, as he's like, As then he leaves. They want to do something, but they're not allowed to use their quirks on villains, so yeah. As then he gets away, Delta and them report it to the police even. As Shigaraki's like, see you later, Izuku Midoriya. Should we call you the Meta? As then they leave, Shigaraki telling Kurogiri he's learned what he's wanted to know. And that's where I'm going to be ending this off on. I hope y'all have enjoyed this. Hope y'all continue to enjoy this. And I hope y'all have a nice day, nice night, nice life.